Power vacuums invite aggression only when defensive architecture is centralized. Decentralized systems prevent warlord dominance by distributing protection capabilities across thousands of independent network nodes, rather than concentrating force within a single state apparatus. The common assumption that anarchy guarantees warlord rule overlooks market adaptations. When a centralized monopoly collapses, demand for protection does not vanish. Instead, it shifts toward diversified, competitive security providers. Monopolistic governance structures present a single point of failure, easily captured by coup d'état or invasion. Polycentric networks maintain continuous operation through multiple overlapping security agencies that cannot be seized simultaneously. Defensive operations are inherently more cost-effective than aggressive conquest. Voluntary security firms protect localized, predefined property assets, maximizing utility while avoiding the massive logistical expenses required to project offensive power.
States wage war using compulsory taxation and fiat inflation to externalize costs. An aspiring warlord operating within an anarchy lacks these coercive mechanisms and must fund operations purely through existing private capital. Extracting wealth through occupation demands continuous surveillance and enforcement infrastructure. Without a pre-existing bureaucratic tax grid to exploit, a conquering warlord faces astronomical administrative overhead that quickly depletes capital reserves. Citizens manage security by subscribing to professional dispute resolution organizations. These competitive enterprises manage interpersonal conflict through contractually binding arbitration, prioritizing legal settlement over destructive physical engagements. Competing protection agencies form interlocking mutual defense alliances to mitigate risks. An aggressive action against a single subscriber triggers a unified defensive response from an entire network of independent providers.
Actuarial scientists calculate the precise financial risk of conflict. Insurance firms demand that clients implement verified defensive fortifications, robust communication links, and non-provocative protocols to qualify for lower subscription premiums. Security providers rely on global reinsurance pools to cover catastrophic losses. Any agency engaging in unprovoked aggression violates contractual clauses, resulting in immediate exclusion from these vital risk mitigation networks. Decentralized defense leverages highly distributed asymmetric capabilities. Universal access to anti-tank weaponry, automated drone platforms, and encrypted communication systems ensures that small defensive units can successfully repel larger centralized forces. Polycentric legal frameworks implement cryptographic escrow accounts. Verified sensor arrays tracking unauthorized border crossings or weapons deployment automatically unlock pre-funded bounties and resource allocations to defensive combat networks. Financial networks isolate aggressors without physical warfare. Individuals or organizations blacklisted by respected arbitration tribunals face automatic suspension from distributed banking ledgers, global clearinghouses, and commercial transaction networks.
Modern transportation networks rely heavily on automation and smart infrastructure. Private road cooperatives and rail operators deny right-of-way to hostile actors by remotely revoking cryptographic passage signatures. Military hardware requires an unbroken supply of fuel, specialized components, and maintenance. In an anarchy, independent suppliers refuse contracts with non-compliant actors to avoid secondary economic boycotts from the broader market. Warlords rely on hired combatants who demand steep risk premiums. Without a captive taxpayer base to absorb losses, a warlord cannot sustain competitive wages against defensive firms offering stable, lower-risk employment. Cryptographic reputation registries track the historical compliance of all market participants. Any entity providing material support, raw logistics, or financial credit to an aggressive warlord suffers immediate, automated downgrades.
Polycentric courts issue enforceable restitution judgments against aggressors. Arbitrators seize and liquidate the offshore holdings, real estate, and digital assets of warlords and their financial enablers to compensate victims. Private judiciaries maximize efficiency by operating on harmonized legal codes. Established conflict of law guidelines ensure that jurisdictional disputes between distinct security networks are solved via jurisprudence instead of warfare. For-profit protection firms optimize strictly for value preservation. Territorial expansion yields no financial dividend, as the cost of holding hostile land outpaces any potential market revenue derived from it. Civil defense groups utilize a decentralized cell structure. Because the defensive grid lacks a command center or singular head, neutralizing one unit leaves the surrounding network fully operational and lethal. Munitions, supplies, and defensive infrastructure are geographically distributed across thousands of secure points. This layout neutralizes decapitation strikes, as there is no central capital city or primary armory to capture. Total public non-cooperation renders captured physical infrastructure non-functional. When utility workers, technicians, and logistics managers strike, physical possession of factories and power stations provides zero economic utility to occupiers. Defensive engineering designs are preserved in global open-source databases. Local communities utilizing advanced automated manufacturing and three-dimensional printing can rapidly generate defensive hardware directly at the point of need. Market pressure extends to anyone facilitating aggression. Businesses selling steel, energy, or food to a warlord face complete ostracism, destroying their market capitalization and forcing compliance with peaceful standards. Decentralized mesh networks maintain communications when centralized grids fail. Real-time telemetry, automated satellite mapping, and distributed intelligence tracking render clandestine military movements completely impossible, removing the advantage of surprise. Defense networks use financial incentives to disarm opposing forces. Offering hostile soldiers higher wages, safety guarantees, and productive employment options effectively drains a warlord's fighting force without firing a shot. Border security under Anarchy is managed by private infrastructure owners. Commercial hubs, transit networks, and residential cooperatives fund specific entry point monitoring systems to maintain secure, uncorrupted trade lanes. Traditional economic theory claims national defense requires a state monopoly. Real-world polycentric applications demonstrate that security is highly divisible, easily targeted to paying consumers, and far more efficient under market competition. Liquid digital assets and mobile labor flee unstable areas instantly. The mere threat of an aggressive takeover triggers rapid capital flight, denying the warlord any taxable base or economic value.
Smart utilities incorporate decentralized access protocols. If a town or facility is occupied by force, the managing contracts automatically suspend water, electricity, data, and automated industrial workflows inside that zone. Voluntary defense associations maintain readiness through virtual, peer-to-peer tactical simulations. This distributed training protocol keeps populations highly prepared for emergencies without establishing a dangerous, politically active warrior class. Violent coalitions lack long-term stability due to pervasive internal distrust. Without a sovereign state mechanism to legitimize contracts and settle backroom disputes, rogue factions inevitably turn on one another. Independent data firms use predictive algorithms to monitor material flows. Sudden, unexplained accumulations of steel, chemical precursors, or tactical gear trigger automated system warnings, allowing defense networks to scale resources proactively.
Populations accustomed to decentralized liberty develop profound cultural immunity to authoritarianism. Lacking the deep psychological conditioning of state obedience, citizens treat an aspiring dictator as an ordinary criminal actor. Preventing warlord domination requires no central monopoly on force. Instead, stability relies on an integrated matrix of market security, symmetric defense capability, cryptographic tracking, and total economic non-cooperation. Markets reward peaceful production over violent resource extraction. In a polycentric society, capital naturally flows to industries that generate value, making warfare an extremely unpopular and unprofitable investment option. Polycentric systems leverage independent mediation firms to de-escalate tensions before escalation occurs. Neutral third parties evaluate disputes using transparent frameworks, rendering military solutions entirely obsolete for rational market actors. Enforcing judicial decisions does not rely on a single police agency. Instead, private investigators, asset recovery specialists, and localized security guards coordinate through shared cryptographic ledgers to execute lawful judgments. Distributed defense grids scale dynamically in response to threat levels.
As a hostile force grows, independent security nodes automatically pool resources, increasing defensive capabilities without expanding a permanent bureaucratic apparatus. Security providers prevent internal coups through strict multi-signature authorization protocols and internal competitive audits. Shareholders and clients can instantly revoke management authority if executives violate company charter guidelines. The ultimate defense against tyranny is structural decentralization. A polycentric society cannot be conquered because there is no head to cut off, ensuring enduring liberty through continuous market-driven resistance.